joining us for the first time. So today we're going to talk about how to host a brunch. And brunch is one of my favourite meals of the week, if I can make sure I fit one in on the weekend. It's a great way to have a long, lazy, relaxed meal with family and friends. Enjoy great food, great company, hopefully great weather. Let all your stresses and worries be put aside for the time being and just sit back, relax and enjoy a nice meal. So in this video we're going to talk through the menu that we're going to select and put together, their table centre and place settings, and how you can have a nice, stress-free, relaxed brunch so that as the host you're not spending all your time in the kitchen, but you actually can sit down for the majority of the time. So a little bit of background about brunch. It became very popular in England in the late 1800s and was mainly served as a buffet style meal. And that's what we're going to do today. It means that you don't need to worry about serving your, cooking eggs to order and spending your whole time in the kitchen, but you can have most of your stuff pre-prepared so that you can actually spend time at the table. Now, brunches became popular in the United States of America around the 1930s and obviously has got a lot more popular through the years. So it's a great excuse, as I said, to get family and friends together for a nice relaxed meal. So I'm actually hosting my brunch tomorrow. The reason I'm starting today is I can do a bit of pre-preparation, which means it'll just save me time tomorrow. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is make a start on the place settings. I'm actually not going to do name cards because it's going to be quite a relaxed brunch with the family, so I'm happy for everyone to sit where they want. But I do want to leave a little gift for everyone at their place setting. And with brunch there's so many great ideas you can do, and you can tie in the brunch theme with this. I'm actually going to make high top cappuccino and white chocolate muffins, which I'll show you in a moment, and I'll actually have sitting on everyone's plate when they arrive. And not only will it look great, it'll smell great, and it just ties in with that brunch and coffee theme. But some other ideas you could do is, why not buy these gorgeous little tea balls, individual ones, just a couple of dollars from your local tea supplier or craft store. Grab some tea. This is a delicious licorice tea. Actually pour it into the your tea ball. Oh, look at that. Splattered all over the bench. Don't do that. We'll close that, put the secure on. Smells delicious. You can drape that on a mug, pop it in the place setting. It's something that they can take home with them. They can drink that beautiful tea at your brunch and then take the tea ball home as a memento, and it's a lovely little idea. So I'll move the mess I just made there aside. Another thing, when I think of brunch, I think of coffee. So why not some chocolate coated coffee beans? And I picked up these gorgeous little bags from my local craft store that say a little something, and you can just pour. Hope I have better success than pouring the tea. Oh, dropped one, that's okay. Pour, I should be using a scoop. Pour some of these into the bags. There we go. You can just fold it over, pop it on the place setting, and there's a lovely little brunch themed gift that people can take away with them, or at the end of the brunch start nibbling on. So we're going to get started on the high top cappuccino and white chocolate muffins, which I'm actually making from a Marie Claire Brunches cookbook. So the first thing we've done is we've put the oven on to 200 degrees Celsius, or that's 400 Fahrenheit. So we need a quarter of a cup of instant espresso coffee powder. We need a tablespoon of boiling water, 2.5 cups of self-raising flour, half a cup of caster sugar. We want 2 eggs, which we'll lightly beat, 1.5 cups of buttermilk, 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence, 150 grams of butter, which we'll melt, 100 grams of white chocolate, roughly chopped up, 30 grams of butter, and 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. So they're all our ingredients. We've got the oven warming up. We're going to make a start on the actual mixture. So the first thing we need to do is boil our water and get ready to combine that with the coffee. So as I said, the good thing about this recipe is that we can make it the day before, we can let it sit, we can store them in airtight containers and then just have them ready to bring out when we need to at the brunch. And we're just going to let that cool while we put the rest of the recipe together. So our next element will be to sift 2.5 cups of self-raising flour, half a cup of caster sugar. We're going to sift that into a bowl, so I'll do that now and then we'll come back. Right, so we'll get started on our dry ingredients, and I'm just realising I probably should have worn an apron because I have flour everywhere. But one of our elements of the dry ingredients is 100 grams of white chocolate roughly chopped. So we've made a start on this, and really we're just using our knife to sort of, I guess, shave off parts, which will be perfect as for our roughly chopped. So that's 100 grams of white chocolate. If there's any really chunky pieces, we can just break those in half. Not be tempted to pick them up and eat. Okay, so there's our 100 grams of roughly chopped white chocolate. So the next thing I'm going to do is get out our eggs and our buttermilk, start to mix those together and then pull it all together. Right, so we've melted our 150 grams of butter. We've lightly beaten 2 eggs together. We're going to mix that with 1 teaspoon of vanilla essence. So just combine all of these. Next thing we're going to put in is 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Stir that around so it's nice and combined. Then we're going to put in our coffee mixture. Do that all the way in there. And just roughly combine this. Okay, and then we're going to mix it in with our dry mixture of flour and sugar. So I'm going to just move these out the way and just start to pour in. So I'll just pour half of it to start with and then start to just mix it in with our flour. You can see there. It's a really easy recipe, which is the beauty of it. Okay, so just mixing it in, making sure that all the flour is coated in some of the wet ingredients. Okay, and I'm actually, before I pour the remainder of the wet ingredients in, I'm going to pour in our chopped white chocolate. And just start to fold that in, making sure that all the mixture is nicely coated. Making sure that any bits down the bottom get collected, so split that across. Okay, so as you can see, we're just mixing it in to make sure that it's all nicely combined. Smells delicious, looks great. I'm looking forward to getting this in the oven. And that's our mixture ready to go. So I'm just going to clean this bench and then get ready for our little muffin cups, ready to put this mixture in. The first thing that we need to do, which I've already done, is pre-cut 8 strips of baking paper or parchment paper. Now this mixture makes 8, so I've cut 8 of those. We've got our ramekin dishes, so about 8 centimetres tall. What we're just going to do is roll them up, pop them in the dish like that, which will give us a guide of how much to put in. And we're actually going to tie some baking string around the paper. Now leave it quite loose to make sure that the paper can fill out, because this is what we're going to put our mixture into. And we're going to start to spoon our mixture into that, and once we've done each dish, we'll pop them on a baking tray like this. If you think they're a little bit too tall, then you can cut some of the paper down, but remember you do need to allow them to rise. And what we're going to do, obviously we know they're not going to rise that much, but what we're going to do is once they've cooked and cooled, we're going to tear the paper away but leave some of it for its, I guess, casing. So we've put our dishes together. Now if you don't have ramekin dishes, I should say, I'm not doing very well today, you can just use a muffin tray and just use the same sort of thing. You've got some baking paper, roll it around, pop the string on and put the mixture in. Now it can get fiddly, you might find it's easier to put the cylinder of paper in, put the first lot of the mixture, which will just give you some sort of steadiness, tie the string around and then fill up. So we've also greased the bottom of these muffin dishes and the ramekin dishes so that the mixture will come out, or the muffin, once it's cooked. So the next thing we've done is we've melted 30 grams of butter and combined it with 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and we've just mixed that together. We're going to spoon a little bit on each mixture and then just swirl around on the top with the skewer. Pop them in the oven for 25 to 30 minutes and then we'll be back when they're ready. Cappuccino and white chocolate muffins have cooked. A couple of things to be careful of when you put them in the oven. Make sure you have your baking tray on low, because they are so high with the paper that you don't want them to get too close to the elements. If they start to tip, I check them every sort of 10 minutes and just move them back into shape, because they can start to get a bit wobbly once they start to cook. And then just check on them, as I said, every 10 minutes or 5 minutes. If you do get some that get a bit lopsided, once they've cooled, you can just sort of shave the bottom off to bring them back up to sort of a steady shape. It's really important when you put the paper on and the string around the paper that you put the string quite high, because they do rise quite high, and if the string's too low it will affect the shape. So these have cooled down, and now what we're going to do is just cut the top of the paper off. And then we're just going to tear it, so make it look quite rustic, because what you want to do is reveal the muffin. Now if it means pushing the string down once they've cooled, that's fine. You can even just sort of put tears in the paper as you fold it over. There we go. We're just going to continue that with the others, and then we'll be back to start preparing for the next part of the brunch. Our muffins are now stored away in an airtight container, so they're ready to bring out tomorrow morning when we sit to the table. So the next thing I can do today to get ready for tomorrow is get all my crockery, my glassware and my cutlery out. I can set all of that aside so that I don't need to be doing that in the morning. Make sure it's all clean, it's all polished up if I need to. The other thing I like to do is work out my menu, which I'll go through tomorrow morning, and also work out what platters I need, so that in the morning I'm not rushing around in cupboards and in my buffet and in my pantry to work out what I need to put on what things, but I work out my menu and then I get my platters out and I just scribble on a bit of paper. So for instance, this is where the strawberries will go onto as part of the brunch. Put that aside, put all of those together, and that just gives me a bit of a clearer picture of what I'll be doing. So I'm going to get going on all of that, and then I'm going to come back tomorrow morning to check in with you and start the preparation for all the food and the table setting. Good morning. So it's the day of our brunch and it's time to get all our food ready. So as I said, I've designed a menu that's going to be easy for us to make. A lot of it we can do ahead of time so that when our guests are here we can actually sit down and enjoy the meal with them rather than being stuck in the kitchen. So the first thing I'm going to get started on is the corn fritters. And what we need to do is heat our oven to 200 degrees Celsius, and we're going to cut up 8 Roma tomatoes, halve them, pop them in a baking tray with some salt and pepper and put them in the oven for 30 minutes. So I've actually already started that. They're in the oven now starting to cook. Once they've cooked for 30 minutes, we'll let them cool down a little bit and then we'll chop them up and put them with the other ingredients. So while that's happening, I'm going to start getting together our breakfast bruschetta bar. So here we have our breakfast bruschetta options. Now with brunch, I'm going to have sort of 3 base options for people. So I'm going to toast some sourdough bread, I'm also going to toast some bagels, and I'm also going to have the corn fritters. And these toppings actually can go on any of those bases, and the idea of the brunch is that people can just build their layers and choose what they want. So the first one we've got is just a traditional bruschetta mix. So I've just chopped up some Roma tomatoes, some basil, popped some Parmesan cheese in, and just before I serve it, I'll drizzle a bit of balsamic vinegar over it. The great thing with these, you can prepare them ahead of time, pop a bit of cling wrap over them, pop them in the fridge, and then just get them out when it's time to serve that course. The next one I've got is some smashed avocado. So I've smashed 1.5 avocados. I've put about 50 grams of goat's cheese in. I've also put some coriander, some salt and some lemon juice. Smashed that up and that's a delicious mix. The next one is if people want smoked salmon. And I'm starting to put the smoked salmon out here, as you can see. And here we've got the topping to go on it. So in here we've got 2 Roma tomatoes chopped up. We've got 2 spring onions, finely chopped. We have 2 tablespoons of dill, finely chopped, 2 tablespoons of baby capers, and a little bit of lemon juice and a little bit of oil, which is a delicious mix and smells great. So they're done. I'm going to put some cling wrap on those, pop them in the fridge, and then get on to the next element of our brunch. So the next item I'm going to get ready is a torta pascalina. And apologies to anyone who knows the correct pronunciation because I'm sure I've said it wrong. It's actually an Easter savoury pie, but it's a great silver beet ricotta cheese pastry and egg dish, which I think will go lovely with our brunch. So I've got 1 clove of garlic here bruised, ready to go. We need 2 bunches of silver beet, and what we're going to do is discard the white thick stalks and then cut the leaves really fine. I've already done our first bunch here, I'll move on to the second bunch there. Then we're going to cook the garlic for about 30 seconds on the stove top in a pot. Then add our leaves, cook for 3 to 4 minutes until the leaves have wilted with the lid on. Set aside and get the next element ready. But what I'll do is start on the second bunch of silver beet. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of oil into our pot here. Warm that up. And then we're going to put into that a bruised 1 clove of garlic bruised. Heat that for about 30 seconds. And then we're going to add the silver beet. We want this on a high heat. And you need a pot with the lid because we're actually going to put the lid on once we've added the silver beet. And I'm just double checking with my recipe here. So 30 seconds with the garlic. Okay, so that's heated up lovely now. We're going to add in the silver beet leaves. Give them a bit of a mix around. We're going to pop the lid on and we're going to cook that for about 3 to 4 minutes until the leaves have wilted. While that's happening, I've actually got out 3 sheets of puff pastry. There's no need to make your own. That's the last thing you probably want to be doing when you're getting ready for a brunch. So I've just got some pre-made puff pastry. I've got the sheets out to defrost so that they're ready for when we put the mixture together. But we're going to let that cook for about 4 minutes and we'll come back to that. Now while our silver beets are wilting on the stove, the next thing to get ready is our cheese mixture. So with the silver beet, we're going to mix it with 400 grams of ricotta, a zest of half a lemon, a teaspoon of nutmeg. We're going to have half a cup of Parmesan cheese, which I've already popped in, and half a cup of pecorino cheese, which I'm just going to grate now. And this is a great little contraption that a friend gave me that finely grates cheese and stores it in its little container. Oh, that's our reminder for the silver beet. So I'm just going to check on that. Perfect. So I'm just going to give that a couple of more minutes until it wilts right down. And I'm going to keep going with my grated cheese. Once I've got that together, I need to get out 7 eggs and start to get this together. Now, for this recipe, we're going to need about a 23 centimetre springform pan, which means it'll be easy to release the pie once it's cooked. So we'll get that ready. Pop that there. So the silver beet has wilted. We've taken the garlic out. So as I said, there was a bruised clove of garlic in there. We've taken that out. We've popped the silver beet in a strainer and we're just pressing it down to make sure that all the liquid comes out of there. We've got a bowl ready to mix. So we've got 400 grams of ricotta that we're going to add in. We've got half a cup of our grated parmesan and half a cup of our pecorino cheese. So we'll mix that in there. Put that off to the side. In here I've grated the zest, finely grated the zest of half a lemon. Add that in there. Put that to the side. Then we need a little bit of nutmeg. Pop that in. Making a mess of everything here, which will give it a nice spice. Okay. Then I'm going to break in 2 eggs. I always break it into another cup beforehand because I don't trust that I'm not going to get some of an eggshell in there. So 2 eggs. Mix that all around. Okay. Make sure it's fully combined. Now we're going to just make sure all the liquid is out of our silver beet and add that to the mixture. Okay, so our mixture's popped together like that. The next thing I'm going to do is grease our tin, our springform tin here, and then come back to the paste. Okay, so I've greased the tin, and now what I'm going to do is just lay one part of the puff pastry like this. I'm just going to press it in, and then I'm going to add the next one the opposite way, like that. And then I'm just going to sort of press around and make sure that the pastry comes up about 4 centimetres on either side. Now it's quite a rustic one, so you can actually sort of cut off bits and patch where you need to. Just spreading that out. And because we've combined 2 sheets of puff pastry, I'm just going to press down to make sure they're combined. So I'm going to continue with that until that's ready and then come back to put the mixture in. Okay, so that's looking good. I've popped the puff pastries in. I've made sure that the 2 sheets are pressed down well and started to pull up the sides so that we've got some coverage there. So the next thing I'm going to do is add in the mixture. And just pour that straight in so it's ready to go. Now the next thing we need to do is with 4 eggs we're going to put a little sort of hole in 4 even spots around the tin. So if you imagine your tins cut into quarters, we're just going to pop a little indentation there. We're going to add in the egg. Then we're going to cut 8 strips and crisscross them over the pastry, so we actually end up with 8ths. And then I'm going to pop that in the oven, as I said, for about an hour. So in there is the silver beet. One thing I didn't mention is once we've taken the silver beet off the heat, we just season with a little bit of salt while it sits there. So I'm going to pop the eggs in and then it'll be ready to pop in now. So I've put the strips. Now I did confuse you. It's actually 4 strips, but once it's over here it will make 8. So we've just evenly popped that over. I'll bring the camera in a minute so you can see. I've got the egg. Now, as I said, you needed 7 eggs for this recipe, and of course the 7th one is to brush over the puff pastry so that it's nice and golden when it bakes. So that's just set aside for the moment. Check it after about 40 minutes. You might find that you only need 40 to 45 minutes or a bit longer. So the next thing we're going to get onto is our corn fritters. Now you'll remember earlier we were roasting our tomatoes, so 8 Roma tomatoes halved, seasoned with salt and pepper in a 200 degrees Celsius oven for about half an hour. So they've cooked, they've cooled down. What we're going to do is finely chop those and mix them with half a cup of spicy chutney. Now you could use spicy tomato chutney. I'm actually going to use red capsicum chutney, so we're going to mix those together. The next thing we're doing here is I'm sieving 1.5 cups of self-raising flour, a teaspoon of sugar, and we've got half a cup of polenta, which you can just buy from your supermarket. So we're going to pop all of that in. The other things we need for this recipe, we need 400 grams of corn kernels, or if you want to use fresh corn, that's fine. I'm just going to grab them out of the tin. We've got 4 spring onion, which we're going to finely chop. I'll check my recipe to see what I've missed. 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped chives, 1/4 cup of grated parmesan and some oil. So we're going to mix all of those in together. So the first thing we'll do now is cut up the tomatoes, mix those with the relish. We've sifted these ingredients and we're going to add in an egg and 1.5 cups of buttermilk. Add those into there, make sure it gets to a nice smooth mixture. Then we'll add in the other ingredients. The good thing with this is you can make this mixture ahead of time. So you can make it first thing when you get up, pop it in the fridge and then just bring it out to make the... I've cut up the spring onion, I've got the buttermilk and egg here. Now with the tomato and chutney, I just realised I probably misled you, that actually doesn't go in this mixture, it'll actually be used as a topping for the cake, so we can pop that aside. So I've got my flour and polenta. I'm going to break an egg, make sure there's no shell there. And we're just going to whisk this mixture up so it's really a pancake mixture. Oops, rattle around. Now another thing, you could toast some prosciutto and pop it on here as well as a topping. And I will be making some bacon with breakfast. So some of the other elements that I've still got to do, I'm going to pop some asparagus and Roma tomatoes in the oven so they'll just roast up nicely. I'll have some bacon. And I'm going to make a frittata as well. And we're going to add in 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. We're going to add in our 4 spring onions that we've finely chopped and our fresh chives as well. And then we can salt and pepper to taste, mix those around and we'll be ready to make our meal. Food done. The last thing I'm going to do is a leek and goat cheese frittata, which is really easy and I can make it just before the guests arrive or just before we sit down for our savoury course. So what we'll need is 1 leek, a couple of cloves of garlic. We're going to chop those up, cook them for about 5 minutes or until they're nice and soft and cooked through on the stove. Set them aside, let them to cool down for at least 5 minutes. We're then going to beat together 4 eggs, and to that we're going to add 50 grams of goat cheese. We're going to add some thyme. We're going to add some cooked asparagus. So I'm just going to pop a bunch of asparagus in the microwave for a minute or so. Chop those up, add those in. Then we'll add in the leek and garlic mixture. We'll put it in our fry pan over a heat for about 5 minutes until it's set, and then we'll actually put it under the griller just to make it brown up nice and juicy, ready for our brunch. So the next thing and the last thing I'm going to go on to is the table. I think when making your table, it's always good to tie in with the season. So it's just started in spring, and so I'm actually going to use some of just the flowers around the garden, which I've trimmed down. I'm going to make it a nice relaxed table. As I said, it's brunch, we don't want it too formal, we want people to just sit back and relax and enjoy it. So I'm going to keep it quite simple. I'm going to have one table runner. I'm going to leave the wood of the table exposed, and then I'm going to put our plates out, our glasses, our serviettes, our high top cappuccino and white chocolate muffins, ready for the guests to arrive. Then I'm going to set up this buffet of food on a table inside. Another thing with brunch, if you're not up to cooking the whole thing, or you just don't want to, why don't invite your friends to all bring a course? Someone does the fruit salad, someone does the cereal, someone does the eggs, someone might do the Bloody Marys. So that's another great way to do it. The beauty of brunch is you can use whatever food, whatever dishes you like. But the good thing is to have a real range, and people can just, as I said, build up their plates with some of the great food. So I'm going to get started on the table. After that, I'm going to put together the frittata. I'm going to start to lay out our elements, get the yogurt out for the cereal bar, get changed, and then get ready for the family to arrive. Thank you for joining us as we shared our tips for an easy and relaxed brunch. We hope you've enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our other videos on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at The Party Hour, and we look forward to seeing you again.